Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Rock Springs High School 20 student meeting. The purpose of this meeting is an opportunity for everyone to see the overall arching components that are associated with Rock Springs High School activities and athletics. This includes some of the policies and procedures, as well as some of the other management systems that we have put in place, as well as forms of communication. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to start with some introductions. We've had some changes within our leadership team. We have obviously our building principal, Mrs. Fletcher. Mr. Supez is with us. Mrs. Downs Lewis is a new assistant principal with us. And we also have Mrs. Supez as an assistant principal. And then there's myself as the activities director. For our fall sports and activities, I want to make sure and give some introductions for those people, head coaches, that are going to be a part of it. First, we have band with Mr. Redmond, cheerleading with Mrs. Duchamp, cross country with Mr. Ducray, dance with Mrs. Pyre. I'd also like to give a quick introduction and thanks to our super and our HR director, Mrs. Bolton, for all of their support throughout this process. So some of our support staff, I want to make sure and give some recognition for our support staff. Without a doubt, an activities secretary is very, very important. And I want to make sure and thank Mrs. Duchamp for everything that she does. Mrs. Wiseman is our athletic trainer. You'll be seeing her at some of the individual sessions, and she'll be the one that'll be taking care of your student athletes. Support for our teachers. Without them, we wouldn't be where we're at, and our students wouldn't be in a position to grow as well as they do. So I want to thank our teachers. Our transportation staff, obviously taking them to and from activities is a major component. Activities crew that gets them ready for all of our events. Parents, thank you very much for allowing your son and daughter to be a part of this, and we're looking forward to an exciting year. Coaches, without a doubt, the time and commitment that they put into it needs to be recognized. And finally, wives and husbands. We know how much time our coaches are with them, with their student athletes, and every chance that you get, I want to make sure that you thank them. So what's new for 2020? Obviously, very popular word, COVID-19 right now. With regard to activities and athletics, we're in transition. We're looking forward to some information coming out soon. We're very excited about the potential for starting activities. And so we want to be in a position to where we're going to make sure that we adhere to those guidelines that are established by our state and local officials and expectations that are determined by Sweetwater County School District number 1. This involves all aspects in sports activities. Failure to comply with these protocols could result in obviously consequences that could end up being dismissal from the team or season. And some of the areas that we want to put a focus on as we go through this will be safety protocols, our attending events, transportation, game participation, face masks or coverings, and hygiene requirements, eligibility, as well as temperature checks. Please note that there's other components that are be associated with this, and we're looking forward to hearing and getting more information as we go along. It's my understanding that hopefully soon we'll be hearing from our state officials, and I do believe that the Wyoming High School Activities Association will have some information to give to us as well. So as we know more, we will share it out, and we're looking forward to hopefully a great start for the fall season. So our athletic philosophy and goals. As it has been for some time now, the mission for Rock Springs High School athletics and activities is to make sure and provide students the opportunity for social, academic, and athletic growth through multiple sport activity participation. We want students to be actively involved. We know that there's a great growth that's involved with activities and athletics, and we want them to be engaged with that. We want to enrich their student character. We also want to teach them multiple characteristics from various extracurricular disciplines, meaning one coach can teach a little differently than another coach, and for them to be able to grow from those components is valuable. Those involve discipline, teamwork, responsibility, adversity, along with some positive mental and physical health habits. Excuse me. Another component that's associated with our philosophy is making sure that we understand how important strength training and sports performance is towards their overall growth. I think what's very important to discuss and note within this slide are the underlying pieces that talks about the point of training and what focus is put based on their age. If you'll notice, females 6 to 8, males 6 to 9 years old, it's about the fundamentals. It's about making sure that they understand the appropriate skills that are associated within that particular sport or activity so that they can enjoy it and learn properly. As they get older, they start learning to train, the components that are associated with training. What is it that it takes to do that? At the ages that we're associated with, adolescents 12 to 18, it is training to train. We're learning all of the important components that are associated with becoming effective within our training, and then it supports their overall success in activities and athletics. And then you'll notice the adulthood, it's actually training to compete. It does matter at that point. I think it's very important to notice the breakdown there. The other thing that's kind of important within this slide is to notice that training can involve at a young age, as young as 6-year-olds. They can start to do strength training and improved sports performance. So oftentimes you may hear that some people say, oh, I don't want my son or daughter to participate in any kind of strength training. Here's the research that shows that it's actually beneficial. And it's a common word, phrase that I've used in the past. Strength training and conditioning is the biggest secret everybody knows about. You want to get ahead in the game, get in the weight room and get involved with your sports performance. Roles of those that are involved, the big picture. Coaches, we want our coaches to support each other's respective sport. That's part of the multi-sport model. Parents, to have a chain of command, and we'll kind of go through that today. And then finally, our school administrators and staff to have an effective management system, communications, support, so that they can make sure and help the system run effectively. Again, in summary, it is the main focus of athletics at Rock Springs High School, as well as activities, to have multiple values, extracurricular activities that participate in multiple arenas so our students can become productive members of society. Let's allow our students to develop the character traits that are needed within their activity and sport, our coaches to coach them, and our parents to support them through their child's growth potential. Along with that, we understand that athletic programs have risks. All students and parents must realize that these risks can be serious. They may result in injury. Could be even so severe as a major injury, catastrophic. When you'll notice, we have an athletic trainer. It's very important that we report all of those injuries to our athletic trainer, Mrs. Wiseman. This is for documentation purposes and, more importantly, for recovery purposes. Please, please, again, make sure that you have them report any of their injuries so that we can make sure and have it documented and we can get them back to return. Last bullet there, it talks about when an injury occurs. We understand the concerns that you have for your son and daughter, and we want you to be an active member of that, but please make sure that you don't intervene to cause disruption or anything to impair our trainer's ability to be able to assess the situation. We will have great communication from our trainer to you about those situations when there's an injury so that you're prepared and you know you're in the know. Along with injuries, we also have a concussion management. This is a a state statute that is set up with Wyoming, and we want to make sure that we take it very, very seriously. Any athlete that might be exhibiting any signs of a concussion, they will be removed from the athletic event or practice immediately. Once when they are removed, our trainer will do an assessment to determine whether they are concussed or not. And then based on that, they have to follow up with an appropriate healthcare professional and our athletic trainer. Very, very important that we follow through these protocols. Once when the symptoms are gone, there's a release from the healthcare provider. At that point, our athletic trainer will then begin to start a return to play protocol. This can be up to 6 days. It's a light progression for our athletes so that we're knowing that they are in full preparation for their competition or practice. And you'll notice that also there is impact testing that will be given for football. also for cheerleading, volleyball, and diving. We'll make sure that we'll have a schedule that'll be set up for these athletes as we get closer to the start of their season. Again, please make sure that you communicate with our athletic trainer and understand that although you may get a release from your healthcare professional stating that they're good to start, we as a district, as a school, have a return to play protocol. So they will not just start right away. We want to make sure that they progress properly so that they're prepared for their next competition. Get your physical. Yes, we need to make sure that you have your physical ready and set. Sports physicals have actually started. They're prepared with the Memorial Hospital, Hunter Family Medical Clinic, and then obviously with Castle Rock and Green River. All starting after August 1st. You can get those at a reduced rate. You'll see the numbers that are there. Please contact them, get in touch. They do have the forms there. Get those physicals so that they're ready for their first practice. Physicals have to be in before their first practice. Sportsware Online. So this is a school district and an athletic trainer's website that we use to document all of our paperwork. This is a very, very important website, and you will need to make sure that you have this information, this site readily available so that you can take care of all the necessary paperwork. You'll notice that some of the paperwork that is there, you need to make sure that you read and understand and agree to the activity athletic handbook. There's also emergency information that you have to fill out. There's the concussion acknowledgement form, assumption of risk, and then the health information release. The only thing that you will need to hand in is going to be the sports physical. That's once when you're done with that, you will go ahead and get on this site. You will go ahead and fill out that information. Once when it's filled out at your scheduled individualized session, you can go ahead and meet with our trainer. You can hand in your physical. And if you've done all the required paperwork, then you will get what we call an orange card. This orange card verifies that you have actually signed and handed in all required paperwork for you to be able to start your actual sport or activity in practice. You'll notice there at the bottom, it states Mrs. Wiseman will be available from 10 to 2 p.m. and 10 to 1 p.m. on those dates that are listed there, 7/28 through 7/31 and 8/3 through 8/7. That will be in the main hall. That'll be an opportunity for you to go ahead and get your physical handed in and be prepared to start your activity. Please call to set up an appointment. Phone number there, 352-3440, extension 4507. To set up a time to meet. We want to make sure that we're adhering to the social distancing guidelines that are established. And you'll notice there in parentheses, one parent, one athlete, and you will need to make sure that you're wearing a face covering when you showed up or when you show up. Again, please, one parent, one athlete, or if you have two athletes, you can bring both, obviously, and make sure that you are wearing a face covering. So some key points from the handbook, some important components that you'll need to make sure that you're aware of so that you don't miss practice or miss a game or something like that. First, let's talk attendance. Attendance on practice days. You must be in attendance in all classes in order to practice. Again, must be in attendance in all classes in order to practice. Faculty excused, extenuating circumstances are approved by me. And oftentimes those have to be detailed prior to. If we talk about attendance on game days and early release, you must be in all of your classes the day before the competition. So as an example, if you have to leave Friday morning for a competition and it's early before the start of school, you will need to make sure that you are in all your classes the day before. If you are not, then unfortunately you will not be able to depart with your team. Absences can only be pre-approved by me and by appointment. Students must get pre-approval to check out and check back in. Please understand this. If, for instance, it's job shadowing, you must make sure that you have checked out and you check back in. There are additional coaches' rules that are given within their handbooks, and also an important note with the virtual-based classroom that we have as an option, this applies as well. So for instance, if you are required to be in attendance for your class and it starts at 7:30 and you're doing a virtual based classroom, yes, you will need to make sure that you are signed in and checked in at that time so that you're registered for that class. Very, very important to make sure that you understand that. That does require, and that's a part of your attendance. Handbook Continued. Overnight trips will be subject to bag and equipment checks. Make sure that you understand that. Any practices lasting longer than 3 hours, those need to be approved by me beforehand. Otherwise, there are no practices longer than 3 hours. Now, a point of clarification here, a coach may have a morning practice and an afternoon practice that totals over 3 hours, but that does not count in this situation. We're talking one practice at any given particular time that's more than 3 hours total. So if it's separate like that, that'll be fine. Students who have online classes or college level classes, you need to be required to show previous semester grades so that we can check your eligibility. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. And finally, contact information must be updated prior to the 17th of August. So make sure you have your paperwork taken care of. This can be through the district website and get that information for like travel release and other important addresses and that kind of stuff. That has to be done before the 17th of August, start of school. Some points of emphasis through the Wyoming High School Activities Association. Students are only allowed 8 semesters of competition, so that's from the point that you start. So once when you're a freshman, you start your eligibility. 8 semesters. There have been situations where there has been students that have started earlier than that, and unfortunately, that does count towards their semesters. So if you started as an 8th grader and competed at the high school level, unfortunately, your senior year, you would be ineligible to participate. You must be an amateur athlete. You cannot compete on an independent team. An example would be, for instance, soccer. If you are on the soccer team and also you participate in a traveling soccer program, you could not do that. Recruitment is not allowed. That's not much of a concern here because we're the only high school for Sweetwater 1, along with Black Butte. There's no competition there. Any student that has completed or competed for another high school, please make sure you come and speak with me. I need to know that information so that we can check your eligibility. And then obviously no participation with a college or university team. Next, requirements for participation. You have to have insurance. We do have some forms that are available in our office. You'll need to make sure and see my secretary, Mrs. Duchamp, for more information. Any homeschooled student, you must see me before participating in any activity. That includes practice. Again, any homeschooled student, before you're able to even practice, you need to make sure that you come and see me so that we can make sure and get that information submitted to the Wyoming High School Activities Association for approval. You'll notice there, classroom-based virtual education through Rock Springs High School is exempt from homeschool agreements. However, it is not exempt from all of the policies and procedures that are in place regarding practices, competitions, eligibility, so on and so forth. Coaches will make sure and talk to you about this the first day. You cannot be over 20 years old before August 1st. And then we'll talk more about eligibility, but you must have passed 3.0 credits currently and from the previous semester. And we'll go in more detail with that here in a little bit. Policy JFC, Code of Student Conduct. Any conduct that results in dishonor to the student, the team, or school will not be tolerated. Consequences can include probation, suspension, dismissal from the team, and then other actions that are fitting for that particular violation, and that can be up to the coach's discretion on their training rules, and we'll talk about their individual breakout sessions here in just a little bit where you can receive that information. Along with that, the alcohol, tobacco, and drug abuse policies. Your first violation, 60 activity day suspension. That includes you can practice, but you cannot attend performances, contests, or special events. You cannot participate there. If you have a second violation for alcohol, tobacco, or drug, it will be 1 calendar year suspension, and you cannot practice or attend any team functions. Third offense would be you cannot participate in athletics for the remainder of your secondary education career. And I want to note, it states there in big, bold, capitalized letters, beware that electronic media constitutes evidence of such situations. So if you happen to be at a gathering and in the background it shows that there's alcohol present, you will be in violation of the policy. So please make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Along with that, we do have a mitigation of penalties for alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. If a student agrees to participate in a student's assistance program, then we can mitigate those consequences. If you'll notice, the first consequence violation was from 60 days. It'll be mitigated down to 10-day activity suspension, or a 20% total reduction of total contests, performances, events, and that's not to exceed 5 competitions. You will also be required to do a research project on the particular violation. So for instance, let's say you are involved in an alcohol violation, then you will do a research project on alcohol. Again, it will not exceed over 5 total competitions, and the reason why it's been changed to 20% is it balances out the total number of contests relative to the particular sport. You'll notice there, mitigation. Second violation goes from a year down to 60 days. And then your third violation goes from 1 calendar year, or from full suspension for your entire high school career down to 1 calendar year. So involving that, I want to talk a little bit about social media. I think this is a great phrase. It's very, very important to understand. Life is 10% of what happens to you, and 90% is how you react to it. You'll notice here to the right, there's an article in 2015 in the Athletic Administration. It talks about an athlete that was being heavily recruited, and the coach went ahead and looked at their Twitter account, and after reviewing their Twitter account, found that that was not the proper morals and ethics that they wanted for their program, and then stopped recruiting them. I've also heard recently that this now has even tailored into other Twitter accounts. There was one situation where even a parent being involved with their account had a direct impact on the student's recruiting ability. So please pause before you post. Eligibility. So our weekly eligibility process is that we'll check your eligibility at the beginning of each week. What you'll need to do is say, for instance, we've got school on Monday. I'll pull the report and we'll check. If you are not passing 3 credits, then you are listed as ineligible for that particular week. Okay? You'll have an opportunity to make that up. You have until the following day, until noon, to get that changed if warranted. Now, you need to make sure that you're working with your teachers. If it's something that is involving a whole bunch of assignments and all of a sudden you go up to the teacher and say, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, I need these 6 assignments graded by tomorrow at noon by the time so I can be eligible. Unfortunately, that will not apply. Students, please understand that a lack of effort on your part does not require extra work on our teachers. So please make sure you're staying on top of your grades. Students that are taking college classes, you'll need to verify your weekly grades by a printout, or it can be a screenshot, something that verifies and dates that time. Extenuating circumstances have to involve with the teacher and has to be communicated with me, and I'll make the final determination on those. Part of the reason why we make sure that we get this process taken care of by the second day at noon is so that our coaches have enough time to prepare for that week's event with the students that they have for their competition. And we want to make sure that we maintain that focus of student first, athlete activity student second. Start of the season, practice requirements. Notice here, golf, tennis, and football. First practice is August 10th. Again, make sure you have your physical taken care of before that date. Golf must have 2 practices. Their first competition can begin on August 12th. Tennis, they must have 5 practices, and their first competition begins on August 15th. For football, their first competition is going to be August 28th. Again, these are all established from this last spring. However, in accordance with COVID-19, if there are adjustments that need to be made, we will make sure and communicate those. But right now, this is the information that we have. For cross country, girls swimming, and volleyball, your first practice is August 17th, and you must have 9 practices in. Your first competition can be August 27th, and note that each day can only count as 1 practice. So if you're having 2-a-days, unfortunately, both of those practices only count for that 1 practice that day. So adjust your schedules, make sure that you're there for your practices. Next thing to talk about is our Tiger Proud fundraising event. This was scheduled to happen in May. Unfortunately, we were unable to, and we are planning on doing it again this 2021 school year, and we're looking at doing it again at the end of May. This is a program that allows us to be able to do one major event so that we can try to minimize the number of times our community, as well as our students and our coaches, have to go out and fundraise. All fundraisers that reference Rock Springs High School, the Tigers, or its logo, or the school have to be pre-approved with the approved fundraising form. We do have a new fundraising form. Our coaches are going to be aware of this. They're going to see it soon, and it has to be approved by the activities director, building principal, and the superintendent or designee. Our coaches will be allowed to have their numbered activity or fundraisers, and they have to have this pre-approved. Again, pre-approved. Multiple groups activities cannot happen at the same time. So a lot of times we may have a situation where one program wants to do a bake sale, another program wants to do a bake sale as a fundraiser. As long as those aren't at the same time, we'll be fine to go ahead and do that. Any non-school group requiring the collection of money will be encouraged to keep this separate from the school. It would be requested that the school personnel not be involved. For instance, if a parent committee has an account and you're asking for us to be a part of that within the school, the coach, we are not to be allowed to be a part of that. That is separate. If you're looking to make a particular donation from that group, anything that's over $1,000 must be accepted and approved by a superintendent or the board. Please note, all other gifts presented or lesser value can be accepted by our building principal. Conflict resolution. Go through this pretty quick. There's an opportunity. There's great growth. We understand that not every circumstance is going to be perfect, and there's going to be situations where some resolution is going to be needed. To follow through this chain of command, this is largely associated with playing time and philosophy. We will not have a conversation about those. If there is a concern about playing time, it is the student's responsibility to communicate with their coach first. Oftentimes, there's a miscommunication, and that we want to be able to work that through for our students and let them be able to develop good conflict resolution skills. Next, if that doesn't work, then we have the athlete, coach, and administrator. They can go ahead and come in and communicate with me. It's a great opportunity to be able to hear both sides and become a mediator, and we work through that. Then after that, it's the athlete, administrator, and parent. My office door is always open for concerns, especially if it's a situation that doesn't involve playing time or philosophy. If there's a circumstance, whether it be bullying or harassment or something like that, please, my door is open for those concerns. And then finally, we'll have a parent, coach, administrator, and it'd also be with the athlete, never after a sporting event. It's always scheduled, and we want to make sure that we maintain professionalism at all times. Again, just to address that, not having a conversation about playing time or coaching philosophy. That's what they were hired for, and we would trust and enforce those rules. Along with those lines, we want to talk a little bit about sportsmanship. A high expectation this year for all of our athletes as well as our coaches is that we want to make sure that we represent the school, our programs, and our community with great respect, integrity, dedication, and encouragement through sports. You'll notice there it talks a little bit about administrators. We are the standard. We will uphold to this rule. Coaches, they're the ones that are in the limelight the most. Their expectation is to be at their best at all times. Be a role model. Spectators, use your voice to represent your school and your community in a positive way. And then finally, our participants, you're the reason that you're there. Represent with class. And our officials are the final piece. They enforce the rules. We want to make sure that they do it consistently. If in fact that sportsmanship does not work to its best, then oftentimes what we will do is we will issue a yellow card. A yellow card is a card that is a warning. It's telling you that your behavior at that particular event is unacceptable, and if it persists, you may end up being removed from the event. So if you get a yellow card, it'll be very simple. You'll just be presented with this card, read through that card, and then if there's a change in behavior, we'll hope that that takes care of it. Our communication. We have two major forms of communication through the school. It is our Twitter account. I use this quite a bit for oftentimes recognizing sportsmanship awards. And then we also have our Facebook page to help with our communication, whether it be something with the school or with activities. We also have two other forms of communication, foraconference.org. This is a website that has our schedules. They are tentative. They're not etched in stone, but they're pretty good. We review those. You can just click on this, then you see Rock Springs, and you can go through. You'll see a calendar, and you can click on each day to see what events are there. And then also a major form of our communication is through Parent Square. This is for our coaches. This is for our athletes. This is through administration, and it sends out all sorts of notifications about whether there are changes, whether there's any kind of updates or anything like that. So make sure you access the Parent Square account. There's also an app. Use Parent Square. We use that as our sole source of communication. Okay, so with that, we've got just a little bit of information that talks about our breakout sessions. Because of COVID-19 and the social distancing, we're doing this a little different this year. What we've done is we've done this general session virtually, and then we're going to have individual breakout sessions that are set up by date and by time. You'll notice here, these are the dates. For band, it's August 6th. And he will break his groups up with one group coming in at 5 to 6, another group 6 to 7, and then another group from 7 to 8. This will be the opportunity for Mr. Redmond to go ahead and hand out all of his paperwork and cover any of the training rules that are associated within his program so that you're aware. You'll notice as you go through those, there's breakouts for each of those dates. All of these are located in the auditorium except for girls swimming. They will be at Tiger Pool in the bleachers. Very important notice here. As you attend, you will need to make sure that you are wearing a face covering and that you're practicing social distancing. And again, I'm asking that only you as a parent or legal guardian, one parent, one legal guardian, and the athlete or athletes, if you happen to have more than one that participates, can attend. We have to make sure that we meet the under 50 people within a classroom. Auditorium is one classroom. We've got to make sure that we meet that. That is why there are certain breakout sessions that have multiple times. You also notice that there is a temperature check that will be taken. As you enter into the building, you will have your temperature checked by a handless temperature kiosk. If you meet the temperature under the scheduled 100.4, then you'll be allowed to be able to enter, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get you set up with your meeting. Also, at this time, after you're done with your breakout session, there will be an opportunity for you to go ahead and work on some of your paperwork that is through the Sportsware SWOL account. We will have computers that will be available in the front hallway after the meeting. If you need to do any of that paperwork, we will go ahead and be available. We will provide gloves so that you can work on the computer to go ahead and input all of your data with our computers to go ahead and input that information. Again, please make sure that you understand you need to make sure that you bring a mask. and that you're practicing social distancing. If you do not have a mask, you will not be able to attend. As a wrap up, all of those parents and students that were in attendance for this virtual fall sports parent athlete meeting, there is a link. I will be sending this out on Parent Square for you to be able to access. You can click that. It's an acknowledgement link that verifies that you were in attendance for this YouTube meeting, and just answer some of those questions, and that takes care of it. In a collective effort, we want to make sure as administrators we serve the mission and vision as philosophy within mind. We want to make sure that we provide a quality education, and athletics activities becomes an essential component of that through multiple sport participation. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing each of you at the activities